Time. We'll send it back to you.
Yeah, it's such a big part of the story we can't forget. We want to bring in now former LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey for some insight into what happens next in the investigation. Thank you so much for being with us, Sergeant, this morning. And there are still so many questions, a lot to talk about. I want to start with the weapon used. What do we know about that so far? At the press briefings yesterday, they were saying there could potentially be more weapons. We know one of them was recovered at one of the scenes. What do we know today?
Well, we certainly know that there were more than one weapon involved. That one was taken away from him in Alhambra, and yet he had another, which he was able to, inflict bodily harm, commit suicide with. And so we'll have to wait and see. The investigation is still ongoing. I've heard reports that the weapon that was seized in Alhambra was described as an illegal weapon, yet they report that that weapon led investigators to show the image that they put out on this suspect. And so the question that begs to be asked and answered for me is, if this is an illegal weapon via California law, was this a weapon that was purchased outside of California and then brought in? How were they able to tie this so-called illegal weapon to this suspect? Because if it's illegal, then I'm assuming it's not properly registered. And so I still have a lot of questions about weapons and how he was able to obtain them and possess them. We hear so many times that, gun owners have these weapons, and we don't necessarily know if they were able to possess them. And if so, or if not, what were the red flags that didn't get adhered to?
Yeah, also the suspect's home in Hemet, this is now a fourth Southland city that's involved in this crime, has been searched. If you're a detective looking, if you're an investigator searching that home, what are you looking for? And do you know what they found so far?
You're looking for anything that would give you the answer to the why. Maybe there may be some brochures or literature, or maybe the suspect could have left, some writings. I believe that he possibly has angst with this community. He seems to have some familiarity with the location that he went to. It's reported that he met his ex-wife at this very location, and all of the victims seem to be his contemporary. So I think this somehow was very familiar, very personal, and I saw him as an opportunist in the moment.
Yeah, you don't often hear, at least in my experience, about a 72-year-old man committing a mass shooting like this. Let's talk about the van when that was found. Walk us through the process of tracking it down, because this was really good work by the Torrance Police Department. Officers on alert looking for that van, finding it, then trying to do a traffic stop, and that's where the suspect took his own life. But we know all of these agencies were working together. There was a lot of cooperation between them, and at least that part does seem to have been successful.
This was textbook police engagement, and it's not uncommon for agencies to share information. I mean, this was a suspect at large who had committed a very heinous crime, and so everyone everywhere was looking for him, and it's no one probably expected him to pop up in the city of Torrance, but I would imagine that officers who were on patrol that day were looking at white vans and pulling people over to see if they were the suspect. And when they encountered him, we saw the deputies execute that detainment with precision and discipline, and ultimately the suspect took himself out, but it ended without an additional loss of life.
And we just heard that last story about the second dance studio in Alhambra and these brave people taking the weapon away from the gunman. What do you make of that?
Well, thank goodness there was a young man there who saw something and did something, right? And it's so many times that it's after the fact, 2020 being hindsight, that we hear others say, oh, I thought about this, or I should have said that, or I wanted to do this, and they didn't. And so I'm very thankful, as I'm sure those other family members are, that there was someone who had the physical stamina and strength to overtake this suspect. After all, he was 72, and wrestle that gun out of his hands.
And of course, this is not the first mass shooting we've seen in an environment that's supposed to be celebratory, where people have gathered to come together and are not suspecting anything like this. What advice do you have to just the common person going out to a concert or to church or to a festival who's on edge after seeing mass shooting after mass shooting?
It's interesting because there was a report yesterday when the suspect was found deceased in his vehicle that someone reported, we are safe, the community is safe. And really, are we? I don't know that we're safe. And I think we have to have that conversation with our loved ones of all ages. what to do, have a contingency plan, be aware. It's unfortunate that we have to have this conversation and think this way when we go out, but these kinds of incidents are happening everywhere. It can happen in the grocery store, a movie theater, a hair salon. And so you need to pay attention to who's around you. If you see someone who's acting in a way that's peculiar, follow that sixth sense, but have a plan, know exit routes, and communicate that with your friends. I mean, after all, we just had a 6-year-old take a gun to school and shoot his teacher. So we've got to talk to the little ones as well.
All right. Well, former LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, thank you so much for your insight. Very helpful.
Thank you.